if you forget to select the layer and it loads it up here, you can just select it and drag it down into the layer. It's not a big deal. What else? I like this yellow flower. It's actually a yellow rose bush. It's a tall yellow rose bush. Let's load that in. Again, it's way, way too big. I'm going to move it up. And let me think, where will I place this? I think either side, just outside of the vines we've got growing on the top of the terrace there, might look good. So let's move it out there. I'm going to rotate it about 180 degrees because I want this flat side to be leaning up against the side of the garden terrace there. And again, always remember to go for balance in your composition. I'm just going to check here the actual size of the plant first. Pull out a bit. I know this is quite a tall bush, and I'm judging the size by other flowers themselves. So you see the red parts of the plant here of the flower, and I'm judging those to the size of the flowers that are growing on the ivy. And I know that a rose flower is going to be slightly bigger than these tubular flowers on the ivy vine. So that size should be about right. We may bring it down just a little bit. Like that. Okay, let's see here. Let's, again, for balance, we're going to copy that and paste one on the opposite side. You'll find gardeners when they planting up a garden, they'll generally try and balance up stuff as well. They won't just plant one plant on one side of the garden, they'll balance it up with the other side. And we're going to do exactly the same thing here. And we're making our scene. I'm just going to want to undo that. Let's give you a minute to think about that. Come on, don't do this. There we go. We're going to select that bush again, and I'm going to... What I did there was I rotated it here from off-center, and it skewed the plant. I don't want it skewed, I just want to rotate it on its axis. So just be careful with these spinners here, because it can be easy to select the wrong one. I'm going to pull back so I can see both of those flowering bushes at the same time to make sure I place them in about the same spot. Doesn't have to be exact, but around about the same spot. Let's pull out and deselect. Alright, let's do a quick preview render here so we can see what we've done. In preview mode, I'm rendering to screen, and I'm rendering at 16 by 16. Again, if you've got a slower machine, reduce your size of your render a bit, speed it up. Yeah, alright, don't show me that, I know. Now remember, at this stage we're concentrating more on populating up the background near the terrace itself. We're going to concentrate later on the foreground. It can help though to work on the background first, because when you start putting things in the foreground, obviously you're going to start occluding stuff in the background, so it'll be harder for you then to get an idea of what's going on in the background. So start with the background, work your way forward. It's probably the best advice I can give you. And always remember though to work in layers, because you don't want to set up a scene where it's completely flat. You want to set up like different layers in your scene to give it more visual interest. And also remember, like I said, I'm selecting plants here that are very colourful because I want to add a bit of colour to the scene. There's no point putting plants in the background or anywhere for that matter where they're where the colours are too muted, or the whole point of adding flowering plants really is to lift the scene up a bit, give it a bit more colour. So try to select plants that are colourful. You know, the actual flowers themselves are quite colourful. They'll stand out really well, particularly in a background object like this. Less concerning in the foreground, but a background object, you want something quite striking and strong. Well, thank you, Sniper Echo. It should look a lot better by the time I finish, though. Like I said, I'm showing you the way I do this. Other people will probably do it differently. I know a lot of people will, and that's a valid way to do it. They like to set up an ecosystem and populate everything at once. I don't like to work that way, particularly with these model pieces that I'm rendering up. Again, if you're creating a really large environment and you're not really concerned with the model like we are here, that's a valid way to do it, but I like to do a lot of placing of things by hand. I just think it gives you a more interesting look in the end than just telling View to do it randomly for you, but you can get View to do that. And I may even use that we did that basically with the grass. When we created the grass, View chose where to put what. I didn't do it by hand for that. So some parts of the model I'll work that way, but things like this plant placement for a specific scene, I always like to do by hand. You get a better result, I think, in the end. Remember too, we're going to be doing this distance render, and then I'm going to do another render where we're zoomed right up, actually just on the model itself. So we'll be creating two beauty renders, a distant one like this and then a close-up one, because like I said, we put a lot of effort and time into painting up all those textures in Mari, so let's show them off a bit more by doing a close-up render, and the statues as well.
Doesn't feel like yesterday. It feels so far away. Now you're
But this is the power of this program. It makes doing this sort of work so easy. This is why I want you guys to do 3D, because it's not as hard as people think it is. I mean, it can be, and I'm not saying doing 3D is easy, because it's not. But if you don't practice and play with programs, you're never gonna get better, or you're never gonna learn. So, you know, give it a go. And yeah, this software, there's nothing on the market like it, so it does make the job much easier. Basically, like I said, you can see where it's up to in its render up here in the dialog box. It's at like 96%, about 7 seconds or so left to render out. But remember, this is a first pass. It'll do a second pass once the render is finished, which will lighten everything up. Because remember, I was telling you guys yesterday, you don't ever want these really black shadows in your renders, because that's just not natural. Not for something that's outside in the sunlight. You're never going to get a black shadow like that. And if you don't believe me, go outside around 11 o'clock or 1 in the afternoon and look. Those shadows are never completely black. You can always, Sniper Echo says, whatever your next project is, I'm going to try to build something similar. Well, good. My whole point, guys, I want you to play with the 3D software. You can download Blender for free. You don't pay for it at all. It's a perfectly great program to use. Sniper Echo uses Blender. Galen uses Blender. A lot of guys do, and it's great 3D software. So download it and play with it. Give it a go. What have we got to lose? Well, that's great. And that's Sniper Echo is saying he wants to create something similar at the same pace or try to keep up on it. Cool. I mean, that's why I'm here. I'm on Twitch, and I'm streaming, but I'm not, like I say to you guys, I'm not concentrating on only my own work. I want to help you guys as much as I can. So that's a good example of something you guys could do. You could use your 3D software to try and create what I'm creating as I'm creating it. And if you have a problem, you can jump into my chat here and ask me. If you're using Eon View and you're at the same time that I'm using it, then you're trying to do something and you're having a problem, you can jump into chat and ask me, even if I'm not using the software you're using at the time. I'm always here and I'm always happy to help you guys as much as I can. And that's why I'm on Twitch. I'm here to talk to you and to encourage you to do 3D and to help you as much as I can, when I can. Like I said, I don't know everything, so there may be some questions I won't be able to answer, but I'm more than willing to try. Okay, so let's have a look at our render. Again, remember guys, this is a preview render, so it's a really pretty low quality render. What I'm looking for here though is the position of the plants to make sure everything is looking balanced and looks like it should be in the right place. So we've added our 2 tall rose bushes here on either side. We've added our 2 palms here either side of the stairwell. Again, that's to frame the stairwell. We've added some of these tall flowering bushes here at the bases of the stairs, again to frame the stairs. And we've added some flowering plants in our urns here that we have either side at the front. Again, like I said, I've used colours that I know will stand out in the background, so this nice purple colour. We're losing a bit of the yellow in the rosebush flowers. That can't really be helped, and it may be brought up when we start putting a background in, but at this stage it should be okay. Now, I'm looking at my model here. We have these fences. I don't know if you can see it here. I'll pull in a bit. These wrought iron fencing. I don't really want to cover that up by placing anything in front of it because I like that look. But I do want to add a bit more depth to these side pieces just here. So in around here at the base of this rose bush, it's looking a bit empty, so I'm going to put something there, I think, on both sides, again, to keep it balanced. But I want to avoid covering up that ironwork at all. Just because, like I said, I like the look of the ironwork and I don't really want to cover it up too much. Even though it's up here on the top of the model as well, but we can zoom in. Even on this quite low quality render, you can get an idea of positions of things to make sure everything's in the right spot. The only thing I'm concerned about, maybe the palms are not low enough. They may have to be dropped down. Let's have a look at that. And the rose bush, I want it to look like it's growing around that garden terrace base, and that looks okay. All right, let's work on putting some bushes down at the bases of those rose bushes to flesh it out a bit more. So, again, the top viewport is probably the best one for you to work in because you can see more clearly your positioning from the top than from the side or the front. I mean, by all means, I work in all three at the same time, but I generally, when I place plants, I work in the top viewport. And I never work in the camera viewport. It's just way too difficult to position if you're working that way. So don't ever try and place plants in here. Always do it in the top and then the front and side views. Let's see if I've got any bushes that I created. I don't think I do. We may have to go to a plant species for a bush. Let's see what I've got here. No. No, I don't really want a birch. Again, I want to avoid the red roses, I think, for this scene. I do tend to use quite a bit of these formal looking hedges, basically for ArchViz, because again, a lot of ArchViz work, they always like to see hedging and things like that. At least the clients at my the studio I work for have. They tend to like all of this really formal garden looking stuff. I don't really want that for this scene though. I've done enough of that sort of work for work. I don't, for my own stuff, I try and avoid it if I can. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but you know, just for something different for me. We could use this juniper, which is not clip it or anything, it's not shaped, it's just it's rough bush. Let's pull that in and have a look. Where is it? Put it. Okay. Again, as you can see, it's way too big. Let's scale it back. Back. I'm just going to move it into near where I want it, and then I'll look at the size of it. Where is it? Where is that bush? You can sometimes place your models in really weird spots as well. You see what I mean? It's placed it way out here in the background. So if you ever put something, load something into your scene, you can't find it, zoom right out, and eventually you'll see where it is. I'm going to scale it back a bit more. I don't really want it that big. I'm going to rotate it around a little bit as well. Again, I don't really want to intersect the leaves to the geometry as much as I can avoid anyway. And I think this bush would look good in that corner section there where the lower border meets the wall. Because remember, this bit here is where we've got our wrought ironwork, which I don't want to cover up. And this is where the border meets the outside wall. And I think these bushes would look quite good just tucked into those corners there. Again, I'm going to copy that. So I want to keep balance. So I want one on the other side as well. And I'm going to move that one into this corner here. Again, I'm going to rotate it around to make sure that I have as few branches intersecting my geometry as I can. So I'm looking for more of a flat edge on the actual plant itself. I'm going to move it into that corner. We can see our bushes in the preview here. It's a bit hard to see, but there's one there and there's one there. I may actually move this one in a bit more. Maybe something like that. Right, one there, one there. Let's save our file here so that we don't lose what we've placed so far. While it's saving out, I will take a quick break for a few minutes, guys, and freshen up my cup of coffee. Because it's going to take it about 4 minutes or so to save. So while it's doing that, I'm going to take a quick break. I'm just going to save here. Because it prepares the file and then it will start saving it out. It is faster than View 9 that we were using the other day to save, but it will still take about 4 minutes or so. So while it's doing that, I'm going to grab a quick coffee. I'll be right back. So just hang out for a few minutes, guys, and I'll be back soon. Okay, now we are still saving this file out. I know you can't see it because I'm in the way, but it's writing out the file now. So we're going to have to wait another couple of minutes for it to finish its work. Again, this with View, the more you start populating your scene, the longer it's going to start to take to save the file out. Obviously, because the file is getting bigger. It's telling me it's got 2 minutes left. It's at like 20% now. Like I said, you can't really see it. Maybe you can see it if I squeeze over a bit there. It says there's 2 minutes left to save, but you can't see the actual percentage because it's behind me here. But yeah, again, the more you start filling up your scene, the larger the file, the longer the file is going to start to take for View to save out. Because remember, guys, it's also still compressing your file as it's saving it to try and reduce as much hard drive space as it can for your scene files. So. And remember, we are at over 1 billion polygons here. Don't, just because that's in red, don't think that's View saying, oh, it's too much. It's not. That's just the color they make it. You can change that in your preferences up here if you wanted to. You because I've worked with scenes in Vue that are, like I said, tens of billions of polygons, Vue doesn't have a problem. It's all good. And it starts to speed up a bit as it gets towards the end of the file. As you can see, now it's like 35 seconds type thing. Now I think what we're going to do is I'm going to add a couple more bushes in here between the rose bush and that bush here, a billion, that's right. Again, that's, like I said, why this program is so good, because try throwing a billion polygons in max and it'll just have a fit. Although max 2017, apart from it being buggy and crashing my computer, can handle a lot more polygons than the older versions, but still, you know, when you start getting into the billions, you're really starting to push things. Alright, it saved the file out, so that's good. We won't, if it crashes or anything happens, we won't lose our work. Vue does pretty good though, the new version that is, not the old version that I was using, version 9. Version 2015 is a lot more stable. If it does happen to crash, even though I have autosave turned off because I don't like having my workflow interrupted while I'm working, while it saves out automatically, it sort of freezes your program for a little while, regardless of what that program is, whether it's Max or Mouya or whatever. So I always turn autosave off. But even though I have it turned off in Eon Vue here, if it does crash, as it crashes, it saves a back file, .bak, which is a backup of the scene that it crashed on. And the next time you load up the program, it will say, oh, there was a problem, do you want me to try and load up the last scene you were working on? And most times that will take you back to a working copy of the last thing that you saw. So even if the program does happen to crash, most times, not all times, but most times you won't lose that work, because like I said, as it crashes, it makes a backup copy of the scene as it is at the moment of the crash. So don't panic if the program does happen to crash on you, even though it is much more stable than it ever has been in the past. Chances are you'll be able to recover from it through this automatic backup thing that it does. But I want to put another plant in here, I think. I want to start filling out the room between the rose bush and that bush. So instead of loading up a plant species like we have been that were created in a separate 3D program, let's use one of the plant species in Vue. So again, left clicking loads the browser. Let's find a bush here that might be good. And this is more of the fun part where you can just start browsing for plants that you like the look of and start, you know, positioning them in your scene to create something. Again though, you won't have as many as I have here because I have an extensive library because I've been using the program for so long. Maybe. No. You've got to be careful though with this. Some of these plant species were created for Vue version 6 because I've been using it since version 6, and you know they're at like version 14 now. They call it version 2016, but as far as incremental numbers go, they're at like version 14. But a lot of these plants I purchased when it was at version 6, so they were created for an old version, and they're going to be pretty low poly. So you've just got to be aware of if you are purchasing them separately from Cornucopia or wherever, make sure that they're not too old, otherwise the resolution of them is not going to be great. Because as the program's improved, the plants have gotten much more high poly. Just be aware of that for if you are looking for plants for Vue online. Generally though, you're always safe if you're using one of the Azel Effects plants that you might get. They're always pretty high quality. And if it's a background, if you're using it in the very, very background, it probably won't matter. You just don't want to put one of these low quality plants in the foreground because your render will look like crap. No.
What have I done? Can someone remind
So much choice, I don't know what to choose.
This soul is just a blur. The last thing that I remember is a
I want to avoid using any bushes that are too colourful, I think.
Who is that man over there? Will I ever find out? It's all used to dream. Tell myself, never will I do this again. Tell myself, it's not worth it. Tell myself no, but who cares? 'Cause tonight I will party. Sail some rudder on the ship.
Now, even though this says realms are desert terrains, you don't have to use them just in the desert. If you find something that you like the look of, feel free to use it anywhere, regardless of what they call it here. Maybe that one, but I do want to look at the Azel Effects ones because, like I said, I really do like their plants. They do a lot of really nice stuff. This might be interesting. Let's look at this one. Again, it's really huge. A lot of Azel Effects' plants were created again for an older version of Vue before they changed the scaling, so you will find a lot of their plants are a bit bigger than they should be. Let's rotate that around. Pull it in. Don't be afraid to squish these plants together because that's how plants grow. They grow into each other. I may scale it down a bit more though, I think. And now I'm starting to look in my front viewport here to get an idea of scale. Let's try that. Let's copy our plant and move it over to the other side again because we want to keep balance in our scene. Rotate it around a bit so it looks a little bit different from the other one. It's hard for me to judge exactly what that plant looks like here in this low res viewport. I'm not sure whether I actually like the look of it now that I've actually placed it. Let's not do a quick render yet until we start putting a few more things in the scene. Again, let's load up another plant. Let's pull in this one here. There's obviously, when they created their plant, they used a plant that they purchased online, and I don't have that in my library, and it's a warning message here telling me that that I don't have it and it can't actually create the plant. I'm just going to cancel that. Alright, let's choose something else. So yeah, if you ever get that warning, particularly if you don't, there's a setting in Vue where if you don't turn it off, it will show you everything that you can purchase from Cornucopia in your library here as if you've got it on your hard drive, but when you go to place it, obviously you don't have it, so there is a setting you can turn off to so you don't see plants you don't actually have in the program, ones that they want you to buy. You know what, I like the look of this palm much better than this one. So I'm going to pull in this one. I'm going to remove those two we just placed because I prefer the look of this. Again, let's scale it back. Move it over. I wonder if that could look good on the sides. Let's leave that there because I want to see what that renders up like, the first plant we just put in. Let's move these to the sides here behind the rose bushes. Again though, let's rotate it to make sure we can put it as close to the wall as we can without too much intersection going on. These background plants though, if they do intersect the geometry or whatever you're putting them next to, it's not so much of a big deal because from the angle we're rendering it at, you're never really going to see it. Don't get too nuts though, don't stick it right in the middle of the whatever it is you're putting it next to. I'm going to pull it up a bit. Alright, let's copy that one and move another copy to the other side again to keep our balance. We'll rotate it around so it looks a bit different. Yeah, I'm not sure how I like that, whether I like those palm trees. Let's do a quick render again. I want to have a look at that. Because you can't always judge on what it looks like in the viewport here, because it tends to look quite different when it actually renders it out. The same sort of thing you see for the grass, like in the viewport the grass can look a bit narky, but once it renders out much better. So and again, this is the procedure that you're going to have to do with Vue as you're working. You're going to have to keep doing these test renders to check what you're doing looks right. It's really the only way to get a good idea. Now I'm probably going to avoid, there's a couple of different ways you can handle your background here, the very background. You could, I'm thinking I want to put this in a forested environment. Now you could certainly use an ecosystem and a tree or a couple of trees to create a forest. I'm going to avoid placing any objects behind the terrace here because I don't really want to mix. I want these columns to stand out as much as possible, and by putting trees and bushes in the background, you're going to lose those a bit. Now, what I'll do with this scene to make sure that it renders up as quickly as possible, like I said, you could certainly use an ecosystem with real trees to put in the background to make it look like a forest. That's one way to do it. I'm probably not going to do that though. I'm probably going to use an image. And again, that's a trick that I use in a lot of my work to speed up my renders as much as possible. By using an image, and you've got to be careful with the image, it's got to look right. You can reduce your render times by half because you don't have all that other vegetation in the background that Vue has to render. So yeah, it has a benefit of speeding up your render time, and generally you'll end up with a nicer looking image anyway. So we'll tackle that at the very end though, once we've finished setting up the rest of the environment. I don't really like those palm trees. Yeah, it's used quite a lot. A lot of people will cheat that way and use an image in the background. Particularly, like I said, for these close-up shots, if you're doing a really large render, you can't get away with doing that. Obviously, you've got to create the full environment. You can't just use an image in your background. But for these close-up renders, I probably will. Again, because it'll speed up my render time, but generally it will look better in the long run anyway, and I can get away with it because of the type of render we're doing. I'll let it finish its pass here because it's at 92%, but I've already decided I really don't like those palm trees, so they're going to go. The ones that we added on the ends here, and also the ones that we placed in the middle. I'll put something else here, I think. They're just the wrong shape for the scene. But again, like I said, you're not going to know until you do these test renders. That's why we're doing preview low quality renders, so we can get it done as quickly as we can while we're working. You're not going to know for sure until you actually render it up and look at it. And I don't like what I see. So. It gives me a chance while it's rendering out to look at the rest of the image and start to make up my mind as to what I do want to put where. So even though, like I said, these downtimes where when you're rendering out your scene and looking at it as you're making it and creating it, it gives you a good chance to sit back, look at the scene itself, and then in your mind judge what you want to place where, if that makes sense. So it's just good. It's a good opportunity for you to stop what you're doing, look at what you've done, and decide on what you want to do next. And yeah, again, like I said, I do want bushes on the side, but I'm not going to pull them that far forward. I'm going to move them back. That's these side things here. I'm going to get rid of the palms, fern or whatever you want to call it, because I don't like them. But when I replace them, I'm not going to replace whatever I put in the same spot. I'm going to put it behind. I'll push it further back a bit. And I'm also, like I said, going to get rid of those palms that we put in here. Because remember too, this isn't this is the first pass. We have to wait for the second pass for it to show us the final sort of image, and it doesn't do the second pass until it's completely finished the first one. The second pass is pretty much instant. That only takes like 10 seconds. It's basically just doing a light pass on it. Okay, yeah. I don't like the palms. I think they look terrible. So, we're going to remove them. Delete. Delete. I should have known. I'm always wary with palm trees. Unless you're doing a tropical scene, I tend to try and avoid too many palm trees. Let's do something else. I don't really like any of this that much. What else do we have to choose from? The rural maple tree shrub will probably work for us because I am going to use either maples or oaks as hero trees in the foreground, so that would make sense. Let's have a look at this one. And again, it's way too big. Down. Maybe like that. Let's rotate it around like that. I'm going to pull it up a little bit as well. And let's copy it to the other side so that we keep our balance in our scene. So let's rotate this one up 180 degrees, I think. Or thereabouts. Okay, now I can already tell from looking in the low res viewports here, I like the look of that a lot better than the palm.